What was the biggest lie you told to impress someone? When I was in college, I had a huge crush on this guy Matt. He was in my history class and had this calm, confident vibe that made him stand out. He wasn't loud or cocky, but he always seemed to know exactly what to say. I would always accidentally leave class when he did, just to walk behind him for a bit. It was pathetic, but I didn't care. One afternoon, we both ended up at the same coffee cart on campus. He smiled at me like we were old friends, and we started talking. It was easy stuff at first. Class, the professor, how the coffee was awful but cheap. Then out of nowhere, he said he was planning to spend his weekend catching up on anime. He called it one of his favorite things to do. I froze. I didn't know anything about anime. I wasn't even sure I was pronouncing it right, but without thinking, I said, "Oh, I love anime too." He grinned and asked me what I was watching lately. I blanked. I told him I'd been rewatching some old stuff and didn't get more specific. Somehow, that worked, because he said we should hang out soon and watch something together. I nodded like it was no big deal, but inside, I was freaking out. That night, I went back to my dorm and opened my laptop. I googled best anime for beginners and made a list. I started watching everything I could find. At first, it felt like homework. I didn't get why people were so obsessed with it. I kept mixing up characters and forgot what show I was even watching half the time. But then something shifted. I watched Your Lie in April, and by the end of it, I was crying my eyes out. After that, I got hooked on Attack on Titan and spent an entire weekend binging it instead of studying. I wasn't just learning about anime anymore. I was actually into it. Our next date came, and we grabbed pizza at this little place Matt liked. While we ate, I brought up Jujutsu Kaisen, since it was all over social media, and I figured he'd have seen it. I asked him if he liked it. He laughed and said he had never heard of it. I felt my stomach drop for a second, but I played it cool and told him all about the plot. He seemed interested, and we moved on. Over the next few days, I kept watching new shows. I was texting Matt about them constantly. He always replied, but his answers were pretty short. I figured he was busy. Honestly, I didn't care. I was having fun. On our third date, we were at this tiny diner with really good milkshakes. Matt leaned across the table and smiled. "You know," he said, "you're way more into anime than I am." I blinked. "Wait, what?" He laughed. "I've only seen a few shows. I just started watching a couple of months ago." I couldn't believe it. I had stayed up all night cramming anime trivia like I was prepping for an exam, and he was basically a newbie. I started laughing so hard I nearly choked. Once I caught my breath, I told him everything. How I lied about loving anime just to impress him. How I'd been cramming like a maniac, and how I accidentally became obsessed. Matt laughed too. "Well," he said, "maybe next time you can show me some of your favorites. You might turn me into a real fan." And that's exactly what happened. We started watching shows together, and he let me pick most of them. Every so often, he'd glance at me during a crazy plot twist and say, "I still can't believe you faked this." Neither can I, but I'm glad I did.